Okay, I think we're going to get started here. Thank you all for joining us today with our webinar with Assurity. For those of you that do not currently do business with us, we're a family-owned brokerage company that's been around for 30 years. On this first page here is a list of our dedicated life and DI team, led by one of the owners and vice president of the life and DI division, Steve Clemens. Each of our agents here have a dedicated case manager that will scrub applications and help with your cases from submit to issue. For agents, last names A through L, case manager is Rosemary Evans. For those with M through Z, you have Rachel Cook. You can reach out to myself or Matt Alina for any quoting and illustration support, case design, underwriting assessments, marketing training, or any other support that you may need. Right here is a list of all the carriers that we offer individual disability for. They offer a full array of products that include full medical DI, graded DIs, and business overhead expense products. URL here, we offer a partnering program called Gemini. It offers dedicated agents and agencies the opportunity to place all of their business with us, and will give exclusive reward and benefits that you can only find at URL, which includes free E&O, exclusive quarterly bonuses, networking events, and more. For more information on that, you can reach out to myself after this webinar. Okay, so thank you all for the business that you give us. And for those of you who plan to join the URL team, I look forward to doing business with you in the future. Now I'm going to pass it off to Christy Magorian. She's a regional sales coordinator with Assurity. I've had the pleasure of working with Christy for the past few months. She's wonderful at giving support to myself and any agent that needs it. Finally, I would like to thank you again, and I'm going to pass it off to Christy.
All right. Well, thanks, Joey, so much. As we get stuff transitioned here, hopefully everyone will be able to see my screen. You should see a family of 4 on your screen right now. So if that's not the case, just let me know.
Yep.
But I am Christy Magorian. I'm the regional sales coordinator here at Assurity. I've been working in the DI space now for a little under 14 years. So when we were asked to help out with a DI webinar, try to give some more information, I wanted to make sure we hit on, of course, we got to hit a little on the product just because I need to make sure you guys have that information, but really focus in on how actually we can help you to sell this product. So that's what I'm going to go over today. Now, one thing, working with consumers, as we're all licensed here at Assurity too, so we understand, you know, how that way of life is for the agent. So we are out able to sell as well. And I always hear, even people here who live in Lincoln, Nebraska, where Assurity's home office is, who's Assurity? Because whenever I see information on insurance companies on TV, I remember the little gecko. I remember the Progressive family of characters. I remember the MetLife Snoopy character. I may remember Mutual of Omaha, but I've never seen Assurity on one of those commercials. And so one of the first jobs that we have is educating you as the agent and giving you that information for your clients. Now, Assurity has been around. We're a mutual company, or actually 3 mutual companies from the Lincoln area that had merged together. We've been in business for 127 years now. So we've been working with DI for a long time. Actually, the first DI policy that ever was sold here, or the first policy, was an accident-only DI policy that was sold back in the late 1890s. And it's really interesting. We have like a copy of one of the first occupational guides that we use. And I think this shows the importance of disability, even though then the dollar amounts were very, very smaller, and the occupations were a lot different. In fact, the first page specified that the occupation guide was for males only, just because back then that was the way of life. So it shows you how the market has changed, but that need for disability is still there. Lastly, with Assurity, one thing I like to mention, since we are that smaller company that agents haven't heard so much about, is I invite you to take a look at that building you see on the screen. Now, what I want to tell you about Assurity, this small mutual company based in Lincoln, Nebraska, is that we moved into this building in 2011. So I want you to think back to how long you think it would take to build this building. We broke ground on this building in 2007. And why that is significant is because that is when the economy was kind of starting to go a little crazy. We had a lot of the economics, taking into effect. Stock market was all over the place. But Assurity is that solid of a company, that solid with our investments, and that solid with our books of business that we were able to break ground on a new, beautiful building. And so I always like to just point that out because usually in times like that, if companies are not set on that steady base, that's something that is not going to be possible. So I always like to share that story because I think looking at over the past decade, that really is a very significant part of our history here. And speaking of that base, think about any products that you currently are selling right now. Whether you are focusing on more of the P&C world, whether you are focusing on health insurance, whether you're focusing on life insurance sales or looking at business planning, retirement planning, one thing that is always important in that base is going to be your client's ability to earn an income. So what I want you to think about is your client base today. And it could be any of these characters that you see on your screen right now. And just think about what would happen to each one of them if their income were to go away. Maybe that man on the top in the suit, has been building his retirement plan with you now for 20 years, has a good solid lookout for when he's planning that retirement, what he's planning on doing. Maybe he's already planned on putting away some money, not only for his own children's college, but maybe money for his future grandchildren's college. All those things that are already in that planning phase that don't exist today. And I just want you to think about if something were to happen to his income, that client that you have, that maybe will be a client with you as long as you are in business, could very easily disappear. That college graduate who is now looking into their future, what happens if that income goes away? Let's think about that person who is within the next 5 years of wanting to retire. What happens if that income goes away? That retirement can go away that quick as well. So what I really want you to do is, as we're going through things today, just think about the clients that you have in your current books of business. I think, looking at that, you will notice some of those clients you maybe never thought disability was a fit for. Some of those clients you just never thought about, if they would need that. Maybe they have a good financial base and it doesn't seem necessary. Well, I wanted to show you a little bit of information on replacing lost income. So even if that client, we know we have money put away in savings accounts. So if we save 10% of our salaries, which less than 1% of America actually does, 1 year disability can make years of that disappear. The second thing I hear a lot when I've been on the field trying to sell DI cases is, well, I get those statements, I have my quarters earned, I will get Social Security. Looking at the average benefit, but also looking at the requirements and knowing those requirements, can make a difference as well. And people don't realize that when they're at a time when they don't need to know that. Other income, always think about, well, if I'm not able to work, my spouse or significant other will be able to work, my brother or sister could take care of me, whatever it is. But, when have you really had that discussion? When has your client really had that discussion with that brother or sister or that child, if they would be able to move in? And then thinking about asking that question of what strain that actually could put on that other person. It's not going to be as easy as they think they would. We all know our families and friends would always be there for us whenever we would need it, but the moment we would see them suffering because of our disability is the moment we're starting then to look for our next place to go. So it's never something that is solid for us. We have feelings and we know they do too. Lastly, when is the last time you have ever heard of someone going into a bank, asking for a loan, and when they asked for pay stubs, said, well, I'm currently not working, and the bank stamped that the loan was approved? It just does not happen. So we think we have some of those outlets, and in certain situations, we will have those outlets. We will have family and friends who will help us out. I think about all the things you see around town when someone's in need. GoFundMe page is a big one now on social media. I think about the pancake feeds and spaghetti feeds, change jars you see. So there's all those things that people will be there to help us. But when we are in a position to help our clients and to help those clients kind of add that extra layer of security, we want to be able to do that. So this is just a little statistic, but I really want you to think about this with your own books of business. If you are not currently asking that question, who is asking your client that question? If you do have a client that does get that question from another agent, it usually spawns from something they have been around, something that they have experienced. So maybe I'm that agent and I meet your client at that pancake feed. We're having good conversation and it comes up to, well, too bad John Doe did not have a disability policy. That definitely could have helped his family out at this time. That client might ask me then, well, what is a disability policy? One thing there to think about is, I have a good chance of getting that sale, but I also have a good chance of taking away all of the book of business you have with that client too. So really think about how you can add that into the sale and how easy this is. You think about the average consumer and ask them what they insure. It seems crazy that we won't insure our income. I think about when I went to the Sprint store here a couple months ago and bought a new phone. I paid 2 years of insurance on the phone that day. When's the last time you've gone into a Best Buy or another electronics store and purchased a TV, a computer, whatever it may be, and they ask you, do you want the 1 or 2 year protection policy? Usually they may give you a few words there of what that actually protects against. You know that almost 70% of Americans who purchase new electronics, that new stove, new refrigerator, new microwave, 70% of them will purchase that 1 or 2 year protection plan. Think about someone who buys a new house. A lot of times built-in nowadays, you get 1 year that protects the appliances or that protects maybe the roof. The chances of you renewing that in year 2, if you're that homeowner, they're pretty high because you always are going to have that worry in the back of your mind. What happens if I come home and my air conditioner is not working? So what I want you to think about with your clients is, it may not be coming and saying, hey Joey, I'm talking with you now. Do you want to buy a disability policy? Because the first picture that comes to that client's mind when you say disability policy is going to be the handicap sign at the grocery store. So what I really recommend is looking at what's right in front of you on your screen there. Let's talk about protecting your income, Joey. That's a much easier way to start that conversation with the clients. And don't be afraid to throw in some of the examples I gave. I think especially the electronics, the cell phones, those are things people can relate to. And if they still are kind of iffy on that, why would you insure a $700 or $1,000 product but you won't insure that $75,000 salary of yours. So just finding those ways and showing them. So with that, just to kind of getting started on some of those different sales ideas and things, questions you can ask, I'm going to do a quick overview of our product for you. First thing I do recommend, if you are not currently selling DI, or maybe you are selling, but maybe not that often, I do recommend using our pre-screen checklist on all applications. This is something that when you are meeting with that client, some of the main questions that are going to come up when that disability underwriting, and the more information that you can get, we want to be able to prepare you. So when you go back to that client with an illustration, we already have an idea of what that client's health history may be. If there's anything out there, even if it does not seem to be that big of a deal, disability underwriting, we're looking at mortality versus morbidity when we do that with life. So I always say the more information we can get on a disability case, the better off we are. You can, anytime with these, you can call in to our new business contact center and actually run that past an underwriter. You can call into URL and they will go over that with you as well. So, many different avenues for you, but I do recommend you use them. So within our disability portfolio, we actually have 4 products that you can choose from. We have a simplified plan that will offer benefits just up to $3,000. Our Century Plus and our graded benefit DI, I'm going to hit on those 2 products today. And lastly, our business overhead, which helps, it's a reimbursement plan on business owner expenses. But today I'm just going to hit on the Century Plus and the graded benefit. So first I wanted to just show you our occupation classes. Now we are constantly looking ways to make our product better and make it easier for you to sell. So we've recently just undergone quite a few occupation, we'll say changes, where a lot of our 3As we now have bumped up to that 4A OC classes. So I definitely recommend, if you've sold DI with us before, take advantage of that occupation guide that's available on the quoting software or on our website. If you ever do have an occupation that you are questioning, or maybe a client has something that's kind of unique, the one thing I recommend is just collecting, let us know what a day in your shoes actually looks like. And that's going to be the best way for us to give you that accurate assessment on what occupation class to put that client into. So just the basics on the Century Plus DI plan. You can see here our issue ages. We will go up to age 60 currently. We do use age last birthday for our disability products. So if their birthday is within, or birthday was just yesterday, we would go with that age as of yesterday. So we do have many different options available, as you can see, for elimination and benefit periods. And the thing I really like for you to pay attention to, we'll hit on, are the 10 riders. One thing that I think is very unique about Assurity's disability plan is that ability to really customize that for your client's individual needs. So just the basics on the product. And here are the riders we have available. Now, the most common rider is going to be the one you see in that top left of your screen, that supplemental disability income rider. That's the rider that coordinates with Social Security. Other riders, though, that we do sell quite a bit of would be our retroactive injury rider. What this does, that rider will reimburse the base benefit once that client has met that elimination period. We also do see the catastrophic disability rider used frequently, whether it is an occupation class that does not qualify for a 2 age 65 benefit, or maybe a client who is just looking to keep that premium dollar down, that maybe will choose, say, a 5 or a 10-year benefit period. This will actually let them extend their benefit period for catastrophic disability. So just a couple of the riders that I use the most, those would be the 2. I do encourage you, and I will send over to Joey today to share with you guys, we actually have a disability rider sheet that will go over more, I'll say more of a layman's term definition of that rider, along with an example. I will definitely encourage you to utilize that when you're looking to make a disability sale. So some of the other features that we do have on our plan for self-employed applicants, we do offer some upgrades. We know, obviously, being self-employed, one of the big advantages to someone who is self-employed is they usually have a really good accountant. That accountant will help them to lower their income. So we're going to be looking at a lower net income. We're going to be looking at maybe different job duties and what is going on at the company. And so we have some opportunities actually to upgrade the occupation class, as well as upgrade the benefit allowed. So we will actually up the benefits as well. We also do offer a multi-life discount for small groups. If we have 3 or more, we can do 15% on our Century Plus plan, and then a 5% on our business overhead plan. So the only requirement with this is we do have to have them set up just coming in as a group. So we'll say ABC Electric Company. If we have 3 issued policies, we can get that set up for you here. A little bit on the underwriting, just so you're familiar. The 3 things I would say if you write down anything about underwriting are right there at the top of the screen: job duties, income, and health. Once again, something that does not seem like a big deal on the health side for a life insurance plan could be a lot bigger of a deal on the health product side for the disability. So definitely make sure to write those things down. Also encourage you to get their height and weights, just that way we'll have that information to look at as well. The nice thing is with disability, it really has came a long way in the past decade when it comes to offering coverage with different limitations. So we do have the ability to offer coverage, different limitations for certain conditions, or just adjusting, that elimination or benefit period, for example, based on a condition that a client has. We also can exclude things. So that client that maybe thinks, I've tried before 10 years ago, nothing worked out, definitely say, give us a chance to review that for you. One other thing that is really nice with our product is our non-med limits. As you can see, for ages up to 50, if they're applying for under $3,000 of benefit, we do not require a paramed or labs to be done. Also, when it comes to income, if they're under that $3,000, we do not require anything if they are a W-2 employee. Now, the biggest thing I hear about when I'm talking to an agent who maybe has sold the DI app already, maybe didn't have a success story the first time around, has a client that has some health conditions, and what happens a lot of time is, well, we see those things and we think about, we're not going to be able to get anywhere with that. We're just going to call the client and say, we couldn't find you anything, and move on to the next. Well, I just encourage you really to not throw away that application and look at our graded benefit plan. Now, the great thing is, let's say you do have that client who applies with us on the Century Plus, but maybe there are some health conditions. We actually automatically will try it for our graded benefit plan, because we all know, working in this business, coming back with an offer of some sort is always better than coming back with that decline. So I definitely encourage you, if you have that client that has been declined before, you have that client that maybe isn't as healthy and you just don't think they're going to qualify, give us a call and let us know their situation. Now, the graded benefit DI, the issue ages you're going to see are going to be the same. Issue limits are a little bit lower. Our elimination periods are going to be the same. Benefit periods, we're only going to go up to 10 years. But what I really like about this product is we're giving that client a chance to get coverage they wouldn't be able to get elsewhere. A lot of times when you have someone who has declined for anything, whether it's life insurance or a house loan, let's just say, for instance, it's very unlikely that person is going to apply for insurance anywhere else. But if you, as their agent, are able to come back and say, I know we can't do this product, or we've tried this product before, but we actually have a solution now that we can utilize to get you coverage. It's going to be a good conversation with the client, so I really encourage you to look that way. And just to give you an idea of some of the different coverages that are considered under this product, here is a list for you. It's not conclusive, so there's a lot of other things we could look at. Of course, one thing I do remind you, anytime you have a client that maybe has 2 or more conditions, obviously that can affect the underwriting decision, and definitely would encourage you to give us a call or give URL a call, and we'll be able to go through that. So next, what I want to end with here is just a few sales ideas of the stories I hear the most as to why someone has not bought DI, or why an agent has not reached out to a client on DI. So I imagine some of these situations will fall into your book of business, so I encourage you to write some things down. So this first one, we hear a lot, and especially this time of the year when we're looking at benefits, is I already have one of those plans through my employer. There's a lot of questions we get asked there. The first one I always like to ask is, well, who pays that premium? Because we know if the client pays it, they're getting that full benefit, but if the employer is paying it, that benefit is taxed. Also, I like to ask and find out, what is the elimination period and benefit period of the policy? A lot of times we might find out that actually is a short-term plan that maybe has a 7 or a 14-day waiting period and pays a benefit of 6 months. Well, the nice thing is we very easily can come back with a very affordable solution with a 6-month elimination period and maybe a 1 or 2 year benefit period for the client. A lot of times people who do not work in this business, they do not understand that there is a difference between long-term and short-term. So this really is your opportunity to do that review of that policy for them and go over some of those details, answer some of those questions that you actually put in front of them, because they're not going to know, but you're going to be the one to help them out. Also like to look at that definition of disability. I've seen some that have just been plain crazy. And I can tell you from my own experience, my dad went on disability a couple years ago, and the definition on his plan, that consumer sense was, well, I have that disability policy that I got through work. And I'm like, great. Well, I started looking at the details on it, and it actually was an on-the-job only policy. So finding out that definition of disability, finding out when that, like how it pays, is it an at-work policy only, or is it 24-hour coverage? That's going to make a big difference as well. The last thing I really like to look at when it comes to a plan they have at work is, depending on that client you're working with, I think about maxes. So we have a worksite division here at Assurity, and most of the plans I've seen will have that max of $5,000. So what happens to that person who was making a higher income than that? They're being maxed at $5,000, but if here in this example, they're thinking their benefits would be $12,500. Now, obviously, many of us will think, well, we could get by on $5,000, but depending on that way of life, depending on that individual family and situation that we don't know, that $12,500 may be more important. So just giving them that view of what that policy actually covers. Last thing I like to really look at is someone who is in a job that is highly commissioned or bonused. Most of the time that group plan is only going to cover that base salary. So just in this example here, you'll see a $35,000 base salary, would only pay $1,750 a month at 60%. But based on that $150,000 of commission plus that salary, we know that they're needing more than $1,750 a month. Last thing I really like to look at too, and this has been an evolving world, is looking at that group versus worksite versus individual. Someone who was in a traditional group plan, when you do leave the company, that policy goes away. Someone with a worksite plan can have that same outcome as a group plan, Or it could have an option where they actually can take it with them, but maybe the policy gets re-rated at that point. So just once again, things to ask that client. And, lastly, what I always like to do, tell that client, any coverage you have is better than not having coverage. I have that discussion on a daily basis. Whether it's an agent I'm talking to here, whether it's a friend or a family that I have been trying to push to purchase a policy, having something is always better than nothing. But, just let me know. Let me know if we can go through the benefits that you have. I'm more than happy to take a look at those for you for free. I want to go over some of these things so if you were ever in that situation, you will know what you need to do. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing I see with when you're working with clients is just presenting it to them in a way, hey, maybe I'm not going to replace any coverage, but maybe what comes out of it for me is I've got 3 referrals from that client. People that they know who actually would need that policy. Next time that client needs a life insurance quote, chances are they're going to give me a call then. So just things to think about and ask those questions. Next, this is a market that is, I'll say, a lot of agents are scared to even dabble a toe in. But if you were ever working with or have a client that is a government worker, I like to just ask them if they know the gaps. A lot of them won't even know that they have a disability plan or options built into their pension books. And some of them may not. I've found out there's a lot of cities, states, counties, districts that maybe things are looked at a little differently depending on the actual occupation within that city, state, county, or a government job. So it's good to ask the questions there on what they have, but then if they do say they have something, let's talk about those gaps. So this is how that first program works. We could see year 1 of the disability, if it's unexpected to last at least 12 months or expected to last less than 12 months, there's a big gap there from what it'll pay. Next, if we look at year 2 payment and beyond, it only replaces 40% of the client's income. So only 40% of that is getting covered. So again, these are things just to think about when you're with that client. So the question I get the most is, are they really eligible? These are our limits we have right now that we offer. We actually are in process of changing the whole guidelines we have for government employees to offer more. We're finding more and more nowadays, different areas are not getting that same coverage, and so we're trying to really diversify what we offer for government employees as well. But right now our limits are up to $2,800 based on their income. The last market I want to talk about, and I think this is one that even on the life insurance side, we struggle with a little bit, is a millennial. So my question to you, or question/fact, is, do you know the average college graduate ever has consistent insurance benefits? And the reason why for that is because that college graduate, typically before they pick a career nowadays that they will settle into, they change jobs 7 times. So really think about that. What could happen, let's just say each of those jobs in a year, what could happen each one of those years? Is that millennial moving to a new job because it is along their career path, or is it one they're making more money in? So just things to think about. One feature for disability insurance that we like to push with millennials is return of premium, because like anyone who is under age 35 in that millennial group, they are invincible. Nothing will happen to them. Well, if nothing's going to happen, let's throw on this ROP plan, and we can see there after 25 years, you're going to be able to get 100% of your premiums back. And here's a look at what that premium looks like. for a 25-year-old. So very, very cheap. Cheap coverage. Take care of that salary right now. Obviously, we have the rider options that you can use there also, you know, to be able to increase that, you know, as they make more money, but just something to think about. So we do have a conference trip to Australia. And if you have any questions on that, I would just encourage you to contact one of your friends at URL. And lastly, I'll just open it up if there are any questions for us today. Myself and Doug Vador, we are the regional team working with URL. As always, I do encourage, if you have questions, you know, utilize your resources at URL. If you do have anything, though, you're more than welcome to call us at any time as well.
Perfect. I really appreciate it, Christy. A lot of good information there. And if anybody's, Christy said that you could give me some of the what was that, the rider sheet that you're going to send out to me. So if anybody's looking for any of the slides or anything there, you can reach out to me and we'll shoot it on over to you. So thank you again, Christy. It was great information, and we look forward to doing more of these.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.